Good evening, everyone. Let me introduce myself. I am Brandon Dennis Phillips. I'm a licensed amateur radio operator. I'm also a licensed GMRS operator currently. What I come to discuss with you today has been a little bit of confusion going on with with the radio system for Polk County. The P25 versus DMR versus analog versus encrypted or non-encrypted. So therefore, I want to explain to you the legalities of encryption and non-encryption. Plus, I want to discuss with you the capabilities of P25 and the capabilities of DMR. Plus, I'd like to talk to you about the capabilities of analog. So, therefore, we're going to start from old and go back to new. This is going to be a pretty lengthy video. I hope I can get it all in. So, stay tuned. It's not going to be too scientifically, but it is going to explain to you the ins and outs and the good and the bad. So therefore, for both public safety and for the individual that is listening. So, therefore, let's start with analog. Used to, you could take a radio similar to this right here. This is a Belfang UV5R. You could put in the repeater frequency and you could key it right up and put in the tone and key it right up. No problem. They done away with that method because of radio interference and too many people being able to get cheap scanners and go and do calls and chase calls, plus be interfering in other calls by making problems, such as this call, we're going to go over here, and then the people listening to scanners go somewhere else and make trouble. So therefore, that's one reason why they quit using analog. So that is sort of a good thing that they quit using analog for that particular purpose. But as an open listening service, analog was very good, very detailed, and very well to listen to, and very easy because of the simple fact that it was open air communications. Anybody could listen to it that had a proper piece of equipment that carried those frequencies. So therefore, it also made the ins and outs. The listening part was great, but the problem was too many people was chasing calls. Too many people was making trouble during other calls that were currently taking place. Also, there was also people tipping people off where calls were taking place and where they were headed to. This is public safety, ambulances, bus drivers, the whole 9 yards. Bus drivers is also included in public safety. A lot of people don't know that, but they are. So therefore, let me explain to you the digital side of DMR. This is the digital side of communications. Digital uses a certain radio, and I currently have an Anytone radio. Okay? This here is a digital radio. Looks a lot different than this little guy right here. It's a lot different. This is about a $250-something radio right here. Does 2 meters and full 40. Does not do 700 and 800 megahertz. So therefore, this here, I could currently pick up the DMR of Polk County when it was DMR on this particular radio. But there was some major flaws in the DMR system because of officers not being able to communicate properly, not being able to hear other traffic properly, not being able to get to the repeater properly, not being able to hear and take calls as they should. Now, And also there were a lot of dead spots of DMR. DMR is digital, okay? It's not analog, it is digital. It takes a computer to digitize the audio to send before it is sent out through the repeater towers. Now, this makes a little bit of confusion because it is digital. And so what I need you to understand is one repeater can handle multiple channels. Analog, the difference between analog and DMR is the simple fact that analog can handle only basically one talk group, and that's it. Whatever's on that frequency, that's what it handles. And it's one. One DMR repeater can handle up to 10 or 12 different talk groups and conversations at the same time. Now, let me tell you this. We originally applied as Polk County citizens. We originally applied for 5 repeaters and didn't get 5 repeaters. We got less because of a financial thing. So, therefore, that also made the DMR structure to where it was not properly done in the beginning. Now, let me state to this point. Okay, at first, DMR was encrypted. What encrypted means, even though you can pick up DMR with a DMR radio, there was an extra step in order to be able to hear the traffic on DMR. Okay, even though if it was coming out regular DMR, like amateur radio operators use, we're actually not allowed to use encryption or have encryption selected on our frequencies that we communicate on. But public safety can use encryption. And what the thing is with encryptions is it makes the officers and ambulance drivers and everybody that's using the system, it makes them feel safer. It makes them feel that people are not out there trying to hack in or trying to get into the radio system and hear what's going on. That's the reason for the encryption. And a lot of people out there say that encryption is bad. We can't hear what's going on. We don't know what's going on in our county. Yes, we have the right as radio operators or radio listeners, whichever one you may be. A non-licensed operator is a listener. So therefore, if you are a listener and you want to hear what's going on and it's encrypted, there's a reason behind that. The reason is that they don't want you to hear it. And let me tell you something. Public safety has the right to do this. They have the right to do that because, and we have the right to vote no. We don't want the system to be encrypted because we pay for it. But let me tell you something. There's a lot of crap going on in this world. There's a lot of crap that don't need to be heard over the radio. There's a lot of crap that does not need to be shared. I heard something the other day just on the amateur band that should not have been said. That was public safety brought over to the amateur side. And that should have never been brought over. That was actually a little bit illegal. And it also went against HIPAA, what actually went across the amateur band. And it was one of our county officers that said it. And I'm not going to say what the subject was, but they brought it over on the Cedartown W4CMA repeater. And if you're hearing this video, you know what you said. And you know you shouldn't have said it. But it actually went across HIPAA. They did not say a name for this particular person. They give an age and what had happened at this particular call. And this was just like a week or two ago, which should not have been voiced out whatsoever on amateur radio or public safety. Should have even announced it this way. But it was announced over an FCC regulated frequency. Okay, let that be said. Encryptions allow officers to do this sort of thing. And it allows them to communicate in a safety environment. They feel safer when the system is encrypted. When it's not encrypted, they feel like it puts stress on the officer. It puts stress on the fireman, the EMS person. It puts stress on all of them for the system to be non-encrypted because they feel like everybody can hear you screw up on what you said. And also, encryption's good and encryption is bad. But I'm going to tell you what the bad part about encryption. It adds more capability of failure to the system. It does, which makes a major liability in the communicational system. Encryption is something you cannot really, you can't explain how encryption really works other than it's another digital code inside the transmission that overwraps the original digital signal. It basically gives it, you've heard of firewalls in internet service. It basically gives it another firewall to where you can't get in. So that's basically what encryption does. Now, people that love encryption, stay with it. People that don't like encryption, don't use it. But the thing is, seriously, and we're still talking about the DMR when it was encrypted. But this also goes for the same fact for the new P25 system. The P25 system is on 700 megahertz. There's hardly any radio around here that does 700 megahertz unless you go and buy a public safety radio that does P25. But listen, if you are a non-licensed operator and not part of public safety, you should not ever purchase a P25 radio without consulting the FCC or consulting with public safety that you are part of public safety. The reason why public safety P25 is a lot more advanced, it actually sends out a cellular signal every time you turn that radio on and every time you turn it off, and intermittently, ever so often while you're listening, it sends an ID to the repeater system to know that that radio is listening. And if that radio keys up on public safety, you yourself are responsible for that issue. And that can cause interference. If you put in the wrong IDs and the wrong talk groups on the wrong net programming, what happens is you can interfere and screw up the whole entire P25 system if you know how to set it up to even listen to it to begin with. P25 is highly advanced. So therefore, and this system we have now is encrypted. And there's a lot of stuff with P25 you just don't even need to fool with. And listen, there's a lot of scanners out there that will pick up P25, but they won't pick up the encryption. So the only thing that's not encrypted is the fire department and the EMS. So, therefore, law enforcement is encrypted. Game warden, drug task force is encrypted. You got city and county law enforcement that's encrypted. And I believe all the county workers and city workers are encrypted as well. County is your choice. And I'm putting in a voice to tell you the explanation behind encryptions. Encryptions are good and they're bad at the same time. But the biggest thing is the safety of public safety. Encryptions, this is what it all boils down to. If the encryption fails, it's going to mess up the whole entire P25 system and nobody can communicate. If the P25 system goes down without encryption, it can do the exact same thing. So, therefore, the problem is with P25 that people are afraid of, and this is for the listeners. The part that everybody's afraid of is that there's somebody in public safety that needs to be listened to in case the individual is doing something that they shouldn't. And public safety people that operate on these radios, they need to understand that whatever they say over a radio, they're accountable for whatever they say in the beginning. So therefore, if the public is really worried about encryptions, this is what you need to look at, and this is what you need to understand about encryptions. Me personally, I could care less if the radio system's encrypted or not, because I've got other sources, I got other means, I got other ways I can find out whatever I need to find out. So all I got to do is find out something somewhere else, and okay. But that don't mean I got time to sit there and listen 24/7, because I don't. And I don't. So therefore, there's enough chaos going on around here as it is, with COVID and domestic violence and stuff like that going all over the place. And nobody really, quite honestly, if you really want to listen to a scanner, you really want to listen to a lot of stuff that would just drive your nerves crazy. But let me tell you, if you have a loved one, a family member, or anybody like that that is part of public safety, then great. Applaud them. So support them. And anybody else out there, support them in the public safety. But please, listen to what I'm about to tell you. Those of you that see public safety out in public and y'all want to assist public safety in like buying a meal or a drink or something like that as an appreciation thing, listen, a lot of public safety people don't particularly like that being done. They just want a simple thank you for your service and go on, because the tax dollars that we give them actually assist them with that. So you're assisting them more with paying the tax dollars than you are assisting them with buying them a meal out of your own pocket, because you're already paying it with tax dollars. Just give them appreciation. Tell them how much you appreciate what they do. Tell them to be safe. And, that's pretty much what public safety people want. So that just gives you something about that. So, P25, DMR, analog. Should it be encrypted? Should it not be encrypted? Like I said, the downfall to encryption is it makes it harder to listen to. And there's not hardly any radio out there except for public safety radio itself with the right encryption code to be able to pick it up on that particular frequency. So therefore, should it be open to the public to be able to listen to P25? For any scanner to be able to pick it up? In a way, yes. It should be open. But in a way, it shouldn't be open, for the simple fact of the safety of the officers and the safety of fire and EMS. Because there are some things that get said over the radio that should not be said. And some stuff can go against HIPAA, but you would never know it if you had an encryption system and it's still activated. A non-encrypted system, encrypted, you would be able to pick up everything being said. You'd be able to listen to whatever is out there. The only thing that absolutely cannot get unencrypted is the Drug Task Force. That used to be DMR Talk Group 800. That particular talk group for P25 is totally different. But that particular talk group definitely cannot get unencrypted. You can unencrypt everything else, but you can't encrypt that one, because that is what they use for sting operations. That's what they use to catch people out in the woods. That's the DNR and the DEA and Drug Task Force and all those type of people use the encrypted talk groups. So therefore, and probably SWAT as well, if that ever comes to need. Dear God, I hope it don't. But anyway, that's there for them to use. And it's just like the military. Military is highly encrypted. You know, if you ever try hacking a military frequency, the FBI and U.S. Marshals and probably some of the military itself would be knocking on your door if they ever figured out what you were doing, and they would know it within minutes. So there is safety behind encryption, y'all. Y'all need to understand that. So we'll see y'all later. WX4PCS, WRQL 521.